I came home after my shift just like any other day, but that night, the house was silent. No TV playing, no laughter, no voices, no one at all. On the dinner table was a scribbled note. You'll figure it out on your own. I was 17, and from that moment on, I officially no longer had a family. This is a true story about being abandoned, forgotten, but never broken. About rising back up not for revenge, but to prove one thing: you are not what they left behind. You are what you choose to become. Chapter 1. The day they left me. I got home around 9 p.m. It had been a long, exhausting day just like every other. I'd just finished my shift at the pizza place, still smelling faintly of burnt cheese. My head was pounding after a customer yelled at me for "Gets this not enough cheese on his pizza." All I wanted was to collapse onto the old spring mattress in my room. Maybe Mom would nag me for coming home late. Dad would ignore me as usual. And my little sister would lock her door like I was a stranger. I was used to it. My family wasn't really a family, at least not the kind you hear about in stories. But that night, something felt off. The moment I opened the front door, I felt it. The house was pitch black. No evening news playing on the TV. No clinking of dishes from the kitchen. Not even the usual lingering scent of leftovers in the air. I flipped the light switch. The living room was empty. The furniture was gone. Even the ripped old sofa I always sat on, gone. I rushed to the kitchen. The fridge was wide open, completely clean, like no one had ever lived here. I called out louder and louder, "Mom, Dad, Emmy," no answer. I ran through the house, opening every door. My parents' room, empty. My sister's room, empty. And my room. Everything was still there. The old mattress, the thin blanket, the stack of textbooks I'd left on the desk. Except one thing. A piece of paper, folded neatly. Sitting on my pillow, I opened it. Just one sentence. Scrawled in rushed handwriting, "You'll figure it out." I read that line over and over, hoping I was misreading it. But the more I read, the colder I felt. They were gone. No warning, no goodbye, no note, no call, no hug, not even a last glance. I didn't cry, not right away. I just stood there, paper in hand, eyes staring into nothing. Part of me thought, maybe they just stepped out. Maybe it was an emergency. Maybe there was some mistake. But no, they had planned this. They had packed everything, everything, except me. I was the only one left behind. Chapter 2, No Longer Their Daughter. I used to believe that no matter how bad things got, no matter how much my parents resented me, they would never actually leave me. I was their daughter, wasn't I? But that note, that single line, felt like a slap across the face. "You'll figure it out." No love, no guilt. Just a cold, careless sentence, like I was a burden they'd finally dropped. I sat on my bed phone in hand and dialed my mom's number. Out of service. I called my dad. Out of service. Tried my little sister. All her social media accounts gone. Just like that. I was cut off. I ran next door, pounding on the neighbor's door like a maniac. It was Mrs. Linda, our elderly neighbor, who opened the door half asleep and confused. I asked, "Did you see my family? Did they say anything to you?" She just looked at me, blinked, and softly said, "I saw them moving stuff out earlier today. They called a truck, packed everything up in a few hours, then left." I thought, "You already knew." I couldn't speak. My throat closed up. I just stood there as the cold night air slapped me in the face. They had planned everything, everything except telling me. I walked back inside, shut the door, and, for the first time in my life, I screamed. I cried like a kid who just realized they weren't wanted. What did I do wrong? Was it because I refused to study law, like my dad wanted? Because I turned down that proposal from the rich guy Mom tried to set me up with? Or was it because I had the nerve to say I wanted to live my own life? I remembered every fight, every time I tried to speak my mind and was shut down with a look of disdain. Every time my mom called me ungrateful, told me I was a waste of food, told me they didn't need me. Back then, I thought it was just anger, just words said in the heat of the moment. But now I see it was a warning, and they followed through. I was no longer their daughter. Just like that overnight, I went from a 17-year-old girl to someone with no home, no family, just a name they left behind. I had no bank account, no close friends I could turn to, no relatives I felt safe messaging. There was only one place I could go back to, that crappy little pizza shop where I worked part-time. I checked the time. 10:37 p.m. I wiped my tears, folded that pathetic little note, stuffed it into my pocket, and stepped out of the house, or rather my former house. I knew from that moment on, no one was coming to save me. No miracle, no heroes, no family, just me and myself. Chapter 3. The only place left for a homeless kid. I walked for nearly an hour to get back to the pizza shop where I worked. Not because I liked that place, but because I had nowhere else to go. The shop closed at 10 p.m., I knew that, but I still hoped. Maybe someone was still inside cleaning up late, or at the very least, maybe I could crash on one of the benches outside for the night. When I got there, the place was dark, just like I expected, but I saw a dim yellow light glowing from inside. It was Nick, the night shift manager. He was the only person who had ever treated me like a human being. I knocked softly on the glass. He looked up and his eyes widened. "What are you doing here this late?" he asked. I gave a weak smile. My voice came out hoarse. I kind of got kicked out. Nick didn't ask any more questions. He just unlocked the door, let me in, handed me a can of soda and a cold slice of pizza. I had never appreciated a cold slice of pizza so much in my life. I sat down on the floor, eating slowly like I was trying to stretch out every second of feeling alive. "You got somewhere to stay?" Nick asked. I shook my head. "Anyone you can call another shake." After a moment of silence, he sighed. "You can crash in the staff break room for now. It's not the Ritz, but at least there's a door and a lock." I couldn't even speak. I just nodded. My eyes burned, not from sadness anymore, but because of that small act of kindness. At the exact moment, I thought I didn't deserve anyone's care. The break room was tiny. It had a folding chair, smelled like cleaning chemicals, and the fluorescent light kept flickering above my head. But that night, it felt like a castle. I curled up on the floor, hugging my little backpack, filled with nothing but a few work uniforms. And for the first time that day, I let myself cry, really cry. No more pretending to be strong. No more fake smiles. Just the sound of my own sobs and the ache of being abandoned by the people who were supposed to love me. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Didn't know if I'd still have a job. Didn't know if the state would label me as an unaccompanied minor and throw me into some system. But I knew one thing: I was still alive. I hadn't broken, and I wasn't going to let them, the people who once called me daughter, be the final chapter in my story. Chapter 4: To Survive. Sometimes you swallow your pride. I woke up the next morning with my back aching from the folding chair. No pillow, no blanket. But somehow I had slept deeper than I had in weeks. Maybe because for the first time in forever, there was no sound of my mom yelling at me from the hallway. No banging on my door from my dad just to curse at me for talking back. No little sister calling me psycho behind my back. Just silence and a sliver of a chance. There was a sticky note left on the mini fridge in the break room. Nick had written it. "If you still want to work, we need someone for the afternoon shift. I'll talk to the owner, but don't make the break room your permanent home, okay? I'll help where I can. Nick." I read that note, and it felt like someone had just placed a gentle hand on my shoulder and whispered, "Hang in there. You're not totally alone." I washed my face with cold water in the employee bathroom, dried it off with paper towels, ran my fingers through my hair to make it look less wrecked, then slipped on my old uniform. No one could tell I'd just been abandoned by my entire family. I walked out to the counter and started prepping ingredients like any other shift. like yesterday hadn't ripped my life in half. But inside, I was different. I looked at the families coming in, parents, ordering takeout kids, begging for extra cheese, and I couldn't help but wonder, has anyone else here ever been thrown away by the people who were supposed to love them? Nick kept his word. He talked to the owner and got me a few more hours. That night, I got paid $75. I'd never seen money look so beautiful. I didn't spend it. I slipped it into an envelope, wrote down the date and time, and I promised myself, this is the first dollar of my new life. No one's taking it from me ever again. That night, I returned to the employee break room. Only now, I had one more thing. An old jacket I pulled from a donation bin outside the nearby church. I balled it up into a makeshift pillow, pulled the thin curtain across the light, and told myself to survive. Sometimes you have to swallow your pride, but one day you'll grow, and you'll remember exactly how this felt. So you never bow your head to anyone again. I didn't know when the pain would stop, but I knew this. I didn't need anyone to carry me. All I needed was one chance, and myself. Chapter 5, Alone but Unbroken. I started making a plan. Nothing big, nothing grand, just small steps to survive. I wrote everything down in an old notebook, weekly expenses, places I could sneak in for a quick shower, my shift schedule, which donation bins had decent clothes. I even made a list of spots with free Wi-Fi so I could keep up with online classes. Because, yeah, I still wanted to go to college. I still had dreams. Don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those, look at me, I'm strong types. I thought about giving up. More than once. There was a night I stood outside the social services building, just staring at the door, wondering if I should go in, fill out forms, admit I was a homeless minor. But I didn't, because I was scared. Scared of being labeled, scared of getting thrown into some system I couldn't control, scared of ending up in a place just as cold and unfamiliar as the house I'd been kicked out of. So I chose silence. I chose to survive quietly, like a weed pushing up through a crack in the pavement. No one waters it. No one shields it from the rain. But it grows anyway. Nick, the night manager, was still the only one who knew the truth. He didn't say much, but when there were leftovers, he'd wrap them up for me to take. When I worked and no extra hours, he'd talk to the owner about giving me a little bonus. I was grateful for it. But God, I was also ashamed. I hated feeling indebted, especially after growing up in a house where my parents reminded me constantly, feeding you is our duty, not our love. One night I was sitting outside the pizza shop eating a piece of dry bread with cold cheese when an old homeless woman sat down beside me. She didn't say a word, just handed me a small carton of milk. I stared at her confused. Why are you giving this to me? She smiled, her voice gravelly, because I see myself in your eyes. Don't ever let anyone teach you that being poor is something to be ashamed of. Shame is having everything and still choosing to hurt others. Her words haunted me all night, and that's when I realized I may have lost my family. I may have lost a roof over my head, my youth, my sense of safety. But I still had dignity. I still had kindness. I still had me, so I kept living. I worked during the day, slept in the break room at night, took weekend dishwashing gigs at a nearby diner whenever I could. Bit by bit, I saved every dollar, every dime, and every night I wrote in my notebook. Today, you didn't give up. Chapter 6. When the ghosts of the past come knocking. I had been living like that for nearly 3 months. No one knew I was homeless. No one suspected the quiet girl mixing pizza dough was sleeping in the break room and showering with wet wipes. I became a shadow silent. Punctual. Never a problem. I worked hard. Didn't complain. Smiled just enough to keep customers happy, but never enough for anyone to get close. I thought I could keep going like that. Save enough to rent a room. Apply for scholarships. escape this miserable little town once and for all. Until one day, my sister walked into the restaurant. She was with my mother, both of them dressed head to toe in Lululemon arms, full of shopping bags, faces done up like they were headed to brunch in a Netflix drama. I nearly dropped the tray of pizza dough in my hands. My heart pounded so hard, I felt sick. I backed into the kitchen, hiding behind the oven like some thief on the run. Then I heard her voice. My mother. Oh, wow, that girl looks like our daughter who used to work the night shift. My sister snorted. As if that loser wouldn't dare show her face. I froze. Nick, my manager, walked out to greet them. They ordered 2 meat lovers pizzas, extra cheese. While waiting, they started chatting and talking about me, or rather spinning a whole damn fairy tale. She ran off with some boy, my mother said, like she was the tragic one in this made-up soap opera. When we got home, she was just gone, dropped out of school, shamed the whole family. I stood behind the oven, fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. Every word felt like a slap, not because it hurt, but because I realized something. They didn't feel a shred of guilt, not even a flicker of shame, no remorse, just carefully edited lies to make themselves look like victims, rewritten history for public consumption. Nick peeked into the back, then walked over quietly and slipped me a piece of paper. You don't have to serve that table, he said. I nodded. When they left, I stayed frozen in place. My heart was still racing, but this time I didn't want to cry. I wanted to remember. I wanted to etch that moment into my memory so that if they ever showed up again weeping apologies and begging to reconnect, I wouldn't soften. I wouldn't forget. That night, I wrote in my notebook, they don't miss you. They miss your silence. They miss control, not you. They didn't lose anything except the mirror they used to blame everything on. I underlined it twice, and for the first time in my life, I felt grown. Chapter 7. A Small Door and a Big Fear. A week after seeing my former family, Nick called me into the back office. I thought I had messed something up. He looked more serious than usual, and there was a yellow envelope sitting on the desk between us. I stared at it like it might contain my termination letter. What's going on? I asked, my voice trembling like a kid being summoned to the principal's office. Nick let out a long sigh and said, I know you've been trying really hard, but no one should have to live like this, working then sleeping in a break room. You shouldn't have to keep enduring this. Someone wants to help. I blinked. Help, a friend of mine, runs a nonprofit vocational training and scholarship program. They're looking for people who've had a tough start but show real determination. I told them about you. They want to meet you and possibly offer you a full scholarship with housing. I didn't say anything. My brain was just echoing one thought over and over again. Don't get your hopes up. This is a trap. This might be a mistake. This might be pity. This might be fake. Nick slid the envelope toward me. All the info is in there. They're expecting you next week. I took it. My hands were shaking like I'd just been drained of all energy. That night, I sat in the break room and opened the envelope. Inside were brochures, an application form, and a description of the program. They offered training in IT, graphic design, and digital media. I read everything 3 times. My heart pounded. Part excitement, part pure, unfiltered fear. Because if I failed at this, there wouldn't be a next thing to hold on to. When your own family abandons you, you learn a brutal truth. No one is obligated to stay. And because of that, I had learned to live like no one would stay. Now someone was reaching out, and all I felt was doubt. I kept asking myself, do I even deserve this? What if I mess it up? What if I'm just broken beyond repair? But then I remembered the words I had scribbled in my notebook. Today you didn't give up. Tomorrow, same thing. And the day after that. So I filled out the form. I applied for the scholarship. I prepared a short self-introduction. I rehearsed in front of a mirror. And I even borrowed Nick's button-up shirt for the interview. And for the first time in months, I didn't see a girl who'd been abandoned. I saw a 17-year-old girl who still had a heart. Chapter 8. The first time I told the truth and didn't apologize for it. The interview was on a Saturday morning. I showed up 20 minutes early, hand sweaty heart pounding like it might explode at the slightest sound. I wore Nick's button-up shirt, tied my hair back neatly, and borrowed a pair of shoes from the dishwasher at the restaurant next door. They were half a size too big, but they were clean. I didn't know if I was walking into an interview or a courtroom. The interviewer was a petite woman in her 40s with short hair and sharp but kind eyes. She smiled softly when I stepped in. "Hi there, come on in. Make yourself comfortable, okay?" I nodded and sat like a stiff little robot. She asked a few simple questions. My previous grades, interests, skills, why I chose graphic design. I answered on autopilot, trying not to stutter, trying not to choke whenever she mentioned my former school. And then came the final question. "So, who are you living with right now?" I froze. Half of me wanted to lie. The other half whispered, "This might be your only shot. Don't sabotage it." So I looked up at her and said clearly, "I'm not living with anyone right now." My family left. Not kicked me out. They left without warning. She didn't interrupt. She didn't raise an eyebrow. So I kept talking. Slowly. No tears. No begging. I told her about the night I came home and no one was there, about the note they left, about sleeping secretly in the break room, about writing down every single penny I earned in a battered notebook, about the fear and the clarity that came after it, and I ended with just one sentence. "I'm not telling you this so you'll pity me. I just want you to know, if I'm given this chance, I won't waste it." There was silence. A few seconds passed. It felt like hours. I thought I had just ruined everything. But then she looked me straight in the eyes, and with a voice soft but piercing, she said, "You don't have to be this strong forever. But you know what? What you just told me, that's not a failure story. That's proof you're still standing." I didn't know how to respond. I just nodded, said, "Thank you," and then I walked out of the room and cried. Not because I was hurt, not because I was scared, but because for the first time I had told the truth, and I didn't feel ashamed of it. Chapter 9, A Message from the One Who Left Me. 3 days after the interview, I was wiping down the kitchen counters at work when Nick called me into the break room. He pointed at his phone. "They called the shop since they couldn't reach you. Congrats. You got in." I just stood there, frozen. Not the dramatic kind of joy you see in movies, not the jumping, screaming, crying kind. Just silence. The kind where your brain is still buffering. Nick beamed a real wide smile I didn't even know he was capable of. "Full scholarship. They've even arranged housing and lunch stipend. You're officially starting a new life, kid." I whispered a thank you. Then for the first time I hugged him. Not out of affection, but out of a raw, honest kind of gratitude for being the one person who didn't turn away when I needed someone most. That night, I went back to the break room and opened my phone. I wanted to screenshot the scholarship email just to keep as proof, as a reminder that I wasn't crazy for trying. But that's when I saw it. A notification. Messenger from Mom. My heart skipped. I didn't even know she still used Facebook. Didn't know if she had blocked me. Didn't know if I wanted to know. The message was short. Cold. "Heard you got a scholarship." Finally, thinking straight. "Your dad says don't embarrass the family anymore. Come home when you're stable." That was it. "No, I'm sorry. No, I miss you. No, I was wrong." Just a line. As if I had been a broken product and now that I was repaired, they were ready to reclaim me. I typed out a response. Deleted it. Typed again. "Thanks for not being there so I could grow on my own." Deleted that too. In the end, I turned off the screen. Didn't reply. because I realized something. I didn't need them to validate my worth anymore. I didn't need to go back to prove anything. They left without a word, and now I move forward without needing permission. That night, I opened my notebook and wrote, Day 91, I got the scholarship. I have my own bed, I have a class schedule, and I have myself. Chapter 10. I started over without carrying the past. I moved into the dorm on a quiet Monday morning. Everything I owned fit inside one old backpack, a few clothes, a worn-out pair of shoes, and a notebook full of scribbled pages. My room was small but clean. Bunk beds, personal lockers, a window facing a little patch of grass where students sat reading or eating instant noodles. I placed my hand on the brand new mattress. It felt too soft. Too soft for someone who once slept on cold tile floors after her late night shifts. My new roommate was named Hannah. Purple hair, loud voice. She talked fast, laughed easily, and knew nothing about me, and I didn't tell her. Not because I was ashamed, but because for the first time I was simply enjoying the feeling of starting fresh. No pity in their eyes, no questions like, how do you wash dishes that fast? No need to explain why I always wrapped up leftovers in napkins. Here I was, just me, a freshman, a student ID number, a girl who loved design, a normal person. Every morning I went to class, learned how to use Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, and every night back at the dorm I picked up small freelance gigs, nothing big but enough to earn my own money, doing what I loved. On my side of the wall, I taped up a poster I had designed myself. A simple quote. You are not what they left behind. You are what you chose to become. And I meant every word. I don't know what the future holds, but for now, I have a bed waiting for me after class, a roommate who invites me for late night ramen, laughter that echoes when I sleep instead of that one haunting question. Why sometimes I still dream about the night I walked into that empty house, but now, when I wake up, I don't cry anymore. Chapter 11, the first time my story was heard by the world. About 2 months after I started school, I got an email from the Student Affairs office. The subject line read, Interview Request, Inspiring Student Overcoming Hardship. I thought it was spam. Honestly, I almost deleted it. But then I saw the sender's name, Thao, a contributor for the Young Lives True Journeys column of Youth magazine. She said my university had nominated me for a feature story, that they knew I had been living on my own, earning a full scholarship balancing work and study, and they wanted to tell that story. I stared at the screen, unsure if I should laugh or cry, because for the first time in my life, someone wanted to hear me. Not to judge, not to mock, but to listen, to be inspired. The only catch, I had to tell the whole truth. No dodging, no excuses, just I was abandoned by my family at 17. I once slept in a restaurant break room. I once believed I was nothing. I spent 3 days thinking, and one long evening staring into the mirror asking myself, if I tell it, will it heal me or will it just hurt all over again? And in the end, I said yes. On one condition, I don't want anyone calling me strong. I just want to tell the truth. The interview was in a quiet coffee shop near campus. Thao was warm and easy to talk to. She didn't dig like a tabloid reporter. She asked like someone who wanted to understand, not dissect. So I told her. For the second time in my life, I told everything. I told it without tears. I told it without shame. And I ended with one line, if someone out there feels abandoned, I just want them to know you're not a mistake in the system. You're standing at the chance to rewrite your first chapter. A week later, the article went live. The title was The Girl Left Behind, and her journey to stand without anyone's hand. The article spread fast. Classmates shared it. A few professors messaged me saying they were proud, and then a Facebook account with no profile picture sent me a message. Good for you, but stop slandering the family. Nobody abandoned you. Stop making up stories. I knew who sent it. I looked at the message. Didn't reply, didn't even feel anger. I just smiled because I finally understood. When you start living your truth, the people who once built cages around you will scream the loudest as if they still have power, but they don't. Not anymore. Chapter 12. The Final Choice. I chose me. A month after the article was published, I got a phone call. Not from a strange number, but from my mom. I stared at the screen. The name Mom was still there, unchanged, untouched, like nothing had happened, like 2 years hadn't passed in silence. I didn't pick up. My heart pounded, not from fear, but from one question swirling in my head: who am I? When I talk to her now, the girl they left behind, or the woman who rewrote her own story, I let it ring until the very last second. A minute later, a text came in. I want to see you, just to talk. Your dad's here too. We miss you. I laughed. Miss me. These were the people who left my life like I was a misprint, a defect, something to erase and forget. And now that I'm doing well, they suddenly want to meet. I sat in a cafe watching people pass by, and I asked myself if they hadn't left 2 years ago, would I even be here today? I wouldn't have this scholarship, wouldn't have that tiny dorm room with posters I designed myself, wouldn't have a feature article that called me an inspiration. I'd still be the daughter trained to be obedient and polite. The girl who never said no because disappointing someone felt like a sin, but not anymore. That version of me, she's gone. I texted back simply, thanks for reaching out, but I'm living my life now. And I won't return to the place that chose to leave me behind. I wish you all peace. No reply. That's okay. I closed my phone, stepped outside, and took a deep breath. The sun was out. Not harsh, just warm, exactly like how I felt inside, light and calm. Because for the first time ever, I didn't need approval. I didn't need to be wanted. I didn't need anyone to finally understand me. I just needed me. The girl who was once left behind, but chose to never leave herself behind ever again. If you've ever been left behind, if you've ever whispered to yourself, no one needs me, then hold on to this. My story didn't end with forgiveness. It didn't need some perfect reunion or tearful apology. It ended with a choice. I chose not to go back. I chose me, and I've never looked back. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. If you've ever felt unwanted, unseen, or unworthy, know this: you are not alone. And if you've been waiting for a sign to get up and try again, this is it. This is True Reddit Reads, where real stories are told, raw wounds are shared, and quiet strength is celebrated. If this story found a place in your heart, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. We've got more stories to tell, and we'd be honored to have you listen.